I'm Mr. MegaManFan. This is the PC Engine Files, and today we're looking at Necros no Yousai, or maybe that's Necros no Yousai. I always get that mixed up when I'm trying to figure out the correct way to pronounce Japanese names, but you can translate it in English as Fortress of Necros, or Fortress of Neclos, given the L's and R's can be interchangeable at times. Anyway, the point of this week's episode of the PC Engine Files is that this is a Japanese role-playing game which I would love to play for more than 10 minutes, but unfortunately I kind of hit a wall here, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But first, let me tell you what I do know about this game, having done some research after having played it for this video. This comes from a popular line of toys in Japan that was packaged with candy intended for the young. The toy line featured the evil sorcerer Necros, hence the name of the game, and 8 heroic champions who were sent to defeat him and his various monsters. So, naturally, that makes an almost ideal situation for a translation to a video game. If they had that intended all along, then they're geniuses, and if they didn't, they stumbled into something by accident that worked out perfectly, so more power to them. I've seen this game described as having a comedic sensibility, and based on some of the animation here in the opening sequence, I can see why that's true. A lot of these characters are bugging out or cross-eyed or have somewhat bizarre looks on their faces that are very emotive and expressive and would cause laughter for any age from the young to the old. I would even say that I'm getting a chuckle out of it myself rewatching it, because I definitely did the first time I played this, but once you get past these derpy animations in the opening, you get to a more traditional top-down role-playing game like Final Fantasy and Dragon Warrior or Dragon Quest, depending on which region you're in, and you wander around talking to NPCs, getting items, getting money, resting if you need to heal up, then going out to fight monsters and level up. You know, all that traditional stuff you do in an RPG. And it certainly feels and looks like it's a high-quality PC Engine game, even if the property it's based on is a little silly in its origin. So they didn't skimp on the development of this game. And who did that developing, you ask? Well, I'm glad you asked, because Ask is the name of the publisher, Ask Company Limited, but the developer was Adventure Planning Service. What is Adventure Planning Service known for? Crimson Clover World Ignition, Trouble Witches Neo, and Necros no Yousai. That's almost 20 years apart between two games. Necros no Yousai came out April 20th, 1990, and Trouble Witches Neo came out April 27th, 2011, so I don't know what they were doing in all that time in between time, but this is what I've been able to glean together from various research sources that I've found, because there is no Wikipedia entry for this game. You have to do a little deeper digging to find out anything about Necros. And once you do, you discover it's quite an interesting game that even spawned a Windows Dojin fighting game unrelated to the PC Engine version that reused some of the same assets, including the music. So this game had a life beyond the point it came out on the PC Engine. And beyond that, there is not a huge amount of information out there. It seems this game is somewhat obscure outside of Japan, which I can attribute to the fact that it's heavily text-based, and the text is in Japanese, and if you can't read Japanese, you're probably not going to be able to understand what's going on and might not be super interested. But me being the stubborn sort of fool that I am, I was like, okay, it's a top-down role-playing game. I fight monsters, I collect items, I level up. I can get my way through this. I can stumble through these text interaction sequences and get down to the actual fighting. Although it does bog down a little bit when you get stopped by a character who wants to have a dialogue with you. There doesn't seem to be any button press neither the 1, the 2, the start, nothing that allows you to speed through these text encounters. So if I was to get a patch for English to play this game properly, I would also want it to have a hack that allowed you to either skip the cutscenes or at least speed up the text at the speed that it's read to you, so you could get further in the game without just sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting while these characters explain their intentions to you. I mean, at least if it was in English, then I might not mind as much, but I would probably still be speed reading it by hitting the 1 or the 2 button and getting through it as fast as I possibly could. But once you get through the dialogue tree and move on to the outside world, you find that you're already well equipped to fight. You have a basic combat attack that involves shooting arrows or punching enemies, and it does a really nice animation where you're running at the enemy or the enemy's running at you, which leads me to believe there may be a little bit of an Earthbound element to it in that you can do an attack on them before they can hit you or vice versa. But unfortunately, unlike Earthbound, you can't see them on the map. The encounters are invisible and somewhat random, and sometimes you can get 2 or 3 encounters in a row just moving from one tile to the next. There doesn't seem to be any consistency with the... I suppose it couldn't be random if it was consistent, right? But at the same time, maybe there needs to be a tweak to it where you're not having 3 encounters back to back in less than a minute. However, the good news is these early enemies are ridiculously easy to defeat. I don't seem to be taking much damage, and I'm getting 5 gold for 1 and 10 gold for 2, so I am leveling up and acquiring wealth to buy more items very quickly with just the basic set of items that comes with my character at the start of the game, which is a nice entry point if you've never played a role-playing game before, giving you a set of equipment that you can actually do something with instead of forcing you to grind out for even the pitiful level that you're at just to get a start. So I give them credit for that part of developing this game as well. It's friendly and geared toward the introductory player who wants to just get started exploring and have a good time figuring out the way this world works. Then again, I don't know that you could do anything else other than that, because when I left town, there was literally only one area on the world map I could go to, so they had to design it that way to some degree just to give you a fighting chance, no pun intended. I really enjoy the way the animation plays out for these enemy encounters. There's almost a Space Harrier type feel when you're charging the enemy or they're charging you, and I love how the camera pans left and right to show that you either landed an attack or they dodged it. So there's some very clever things going on with this game to make it feel like a more immersive world and not just you staring down on top of them like God from afar. Here ultimately is where I ran into a problem with Fortress of Necros, and unless I get an English language patch, I probably won't be able to make any more progress. I keep encountering these bodies of water that I have no way to cross. I don't have an item in my inventory that is like a raft or a boat that would enable me to traverse this area, and even though I chose to turn around and go the other way and found another area, it was surrounded entirely by water, and I couldn't get to the actual village or castle or fortress that was inside of the moats. And it certainly seemed like something I was supposed to do because the music changes dramatically, as you can hear in the background. So this is an important area, and I'm clearly meant to do something here, but there's a dead end to the left and a dead end to the right, and no way to cross the water in the middle in sight. So sadly, my gameplay comes to an end at this point, but I will be looking for a patch because this is a fascinating game for me, and I really want to dig further into Fortress of Necros and find out what these characters are all about and what their heroic quest to defeat Necros will lead to in the end. I'm Mr. MegaManFan. This is the PC Engine Files. Like, share, and comment to help the channel grow. If you already watched this video, watch one more. Please subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and thank you for watching.